Napoleon Bonaparte was one of the most famous leaders in history, a brilliant military general and the Emperor of France. However, his life was one of contrasts with dramatic twists and turns. Let's explore what happened to Napoleon in the last years of his life, from leading one of the world's largest and most feared armies to his final lonely resting place on the remote island of St. Helena. Napoleon Bonaparte was one of the most successful leaders the world has ever seen. He rose to power in France during the French Revolution and became emperor in 1804. Napoleon's military campaigns were marked by strategic brilliance and tactical genius, earning him the admiration and fear of his contemporaries. Napoleon's early victories included the Italian campaign, where he defeated several European armies and expanded French control over Italy. He then defeated the Austrians and Prussians in a series of battles, which solidified his dominance over Europe. In 1807, he then forced Prussia and Russia to sign a peace treaty that recognized French control over much of Europe. Napoleon's military prowess and strategic thinking allowed him to expand the French Empire, and he was hailed as a hero by the French people. His military campaigns were marked by swift victories, and he was able to maintain a large and well-trained army. However, his decision to invade Russia in 1812 would prove to be a turning point in his fortunes, as the harsh Russian winter and the scorched earth tactics of the Russian army ultimately led to the downfall of his empire. His army suffered massive losses, and he faced increasing opposition from other European countries. In 1814, the Allied forces of Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria invaded France and captured Paris. Napoleon was forced to give up his throne on April 6, 1814. The Treaty of Fontainebleau was signed, and the Allies decided that instead of being executed and being made a martyr, Napoleon would be exiled to the small island of Elba off the coast of Italy. Napoleon arrived on Elba on May 3, 1814. Although he was exiled, he was allowed to keep the title of emperor and had control over the island and its 12,000 inhabitants. He even had a small army of about 1,000 men. Napoleon didn't waste time. He started improving the island by building roads, developing mines, and reforming the legal system. He lived in a comfortable villa and often entertained guests with music and card games. Despite his efforts to make the best of his situation, Napoleon was restless. He missed his power and was aware of the political unrest in France. The new king, Louis XVIII, was unpopular, and many people wanted Napoleon back. Sensing an opportunity, Napoleon decided to act. On the night of February 26, 1815, he fled Elba, determined to reclaim his throne. His loyal men had prepared a small fleet, including the ship Inconstant, ready to sail under the cover of darkness. As Napoleon boarded the Inconstant, he raised the French flag, with his followers cheering, "Vive l'Empereur!" The ships quietly left the harbor, avoiding British patrols in a tense game of hide-and-seek along the coast. On March 1st, they landed on the coast of France. Napoleon stepped ashore, declaring, "The eagle has taken wing." He then began his march to Paris, gathering support from soldiers and civilians along the way. His army grew with each step, fueled by the excitement of his return. By the time he reached Paris on March 20th, he had gathered a large army. This period is known as the 100 Days. Napoleon's return alarmed the European powers, and they quickly formed a coalition to stop him. The decisive battle took place at Waterloo, where Napoleon faced both the British and Prussian armies. Realizing he could not win, he surrendered on June 22, 1815. After his defeat at Waterloo, Napoleon hoped to escape to the United States, but the British and Prussian forces refused to grant him safe passage, and Napoleon was eventually forced to give himself up to the British. Not wanting to repeat the same mistake, this time the British decided to exile him as far away as possible. They chose St. Helena, a remote island in the South Atlantic Ocean, far from Europe. This was to ensure he would never return to power. Napoleon Bonaparte's travel to St. Helena began on August 8, 1815, when he left Plymouth Harbor on the Royal Navy's ship Northumberland, accompanied by a small retinue of loyal followers. After a 2-month trip, Napoleon arrived on St. Helena. Life on St. Helena was harsh compared to Elba. The island was isolated, and the British kept a close watch on him. He was allocated a manor known as Longwood House, which was far from luxurious. It was a building located on a high plateau, surrounded by lava fields and often shrouded in clouds. While spacious by the island standards, the house was damp, cold, and infested with rats, making it an uncomfortable place to live. Napoleon's daily routine on St. Helena was monotonous. He would wake up late, have breakfast around 10 a.m., and seldom went out. He spent much of his time writing and dictating his memoirs to his companions, who later published these notes as the Memorial of St. Helena. Napoleon also enjoyed reading, particularly English newspapers and classic literature, and he played cards in the evenings. Napoleon's health began to deteriorate during his exile. His inactivity and the harsh living conditions at Longwood contributed to his declining health. Despite his illness, he continued to engage in some activities, such as gardening and taking occasional walks, although these became less frequent over time. Napoleon was accompanied by a small group of loyal followers. These companions provided him with some comfort and support, although tensions and conflicts occasionally arose among them. Sir Hudson Lowe, the governor of St. Helena, was responsible for ensuring Napoleon did not escape. Their relationship was strained from the beginning. Lowe enforced strict regulations, including a curfew and constant surveillance, which Napoleon found oppressive. Lowe's refusal to address Napoleon as emperor further aggravated their relationship. Despite these tensions, Lowe was merely following orders from London to prevent any possibility of escape. As the years passed, Napoleon became increasingly lethargic and depressed. By 1820, his health had significantly worsened, and he believed he was suffering from the same cancer that had killed his father. In April 1821, he dictated his last will, accusing the British of hastening his death by refusing to move him from the unhealthy environment of Longwood. Napoleon died on May 5, 1821, at the age of 51, surrounded by his companions. Revered by some as a revolutionary hero and condemned by others as a tyrant, his life and actions continue to be studied carefully by historians to this day. His impact on military strategy, law, and European politics remains profound and enduring. Despite his fall from power, Napoleon remains one of the most influential figures the world has ever seen. Click here to find out more about the most important and interesting figures in history, and remember to click subscribe